All right, now I want to talk about last night's Republican presidential debate, the final debate, finally, before the Iowa caucuses on January 3rd. I've got to say, it was a little less fun and exciting without Herman Cain, but one exchange from last night is worth noting. It's a back and forth between Michelle Bachmann and Ron Paul on the issue of Iran.
Without a shadow of a doubt that Iran will take a nuclear weapon. They will use it to wipe our ally Israel off the face of the map, and they've stated they will use it against the United States of America. Look no further than the Iranian Constitution, which states unequivocally that their mission is to extend jihad across the world and eventually to set up a worldwide caliphate. We would be fools and knaves to ignore their purpose and their plan.
Congressman Paul.
Obviously, I would like to see a lot less nuclear weapons. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I would like to reduce them because there would be less chance of war. But to declare war on 1.2 billion Muslims and say all Muslims are the same, this is dangerous talk. Yeah, there are some radicals, but they don't come here to kill us because we're free and prosperous. Do they go to Switzerland and Sweden? I mean, that's absurd. If you think that is the reason, we have no chance of winning this. They come here and they explicitly explain it to it. The CIA has explained it to us. It said they come here and they want to do us harm because we're bombing them. What is the whole world about the drone being in Iran? And we're begging and pleading, and how are we going to start a war to get this drone back? Why were we flying the drone over Iran? Why do we have to bomb so many countries? Why are we have 900 bases, 130 countries, and we're totally bankrupt? How are you going to rebuild the military when we have no money?
If we have an avowed madman who uses that nuclear weapon to wipe nations off the face of the earth, and we have an IAEA report that just recently came out that said literally Iran is within just months of being able to obtain that weapon. Okay. Nothing could be more dangerous than the comments that we just heard.
All right, 30 seconds.
There is no UN report that said that. It's totally wrong on what you just said.
IAEA report.
That is not true. They produced information that led you to believe that, but they have no evidence. There's been no enrichment of these bombs.
If we agree with that, the United States people could be at risk of our national security.
So I'd like to finish. If she thinks we live in a dangerous world, she ought to think back when I was drafted in 1962 with the nuclear missiles in Cuba. And Kennedy calls Khrushchev and talks to him and talks him out of this, and we don't have a nuclear exchange. And you're trying to dramatize this, that we have to go and treat Iran like we've treated Iraq and kill 1 million Iraqis, and 8,000 some Americans have died since we've gone to war. You cannot solve these problems with war. You can solve the problems if we follow our Constitution, go to war, only when we declare the war, go in and win them and get them over with, instead of this endless fighting and this endless attitude that we have enemy all around the world.
But as President, I stand on the side of peace for the American people.
I'm sorry, what? Did Michelle Bachmann just say what I think she said? Let me hear that again.
I stand on the side of peace for the American people.
Michelle Bachmann stands on the side of peace. So essentially, let's start a war with Iran. P.S. I love peace. There are a lot of things that this makes me think of, but let me just make a light comparison with two cartoon characters, some of my favorites, Charlie Brown's little sister Sally and Linus.
Those kids at the playground think they're so tough. Well, I'm not out to start any trouble, but I'm also not afraid of them. I'm taking the advice of Theodore Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a beagle.
In my administration, children will be children, and adults will be adults. I may even do away with stupid elections like this. Thank you.
After the holidays are over and everything has quieted, I'm gonna slug you.
So on one hand, you have the crazy, irrational girl flying off the handle once again. And then there's the guy everyone discounts, who actually is making perfect sense. A little far-fetched, but, you know, I think it works. But I want to get back to this comment made by Michelle Bachmann. One more time, please.
I stand on the side of peace for the American people.
There are so many things to say about this. First of all, Bachman cites a report by the International Atomic Energy Agency that basically says Iran might possibly have been working on developing nuclear weapons before 2003 and may possibly be doing so now. It does not cite any direct evidence of this because, well, there isn't any. So Michelle Bachman is drawing a conclusion based on a hypothesis that's based on a premonition and fear-mongering, and perhaps the desires of the defense community that Iran is an urgent, direct threat to the U.S. not to be ignored. Ron Paul says, let's just tell it like it is and be honest about the fact that it's the warmongering that beefs up the threat. And say what you will about Iran, but if you want to believe they have nuclear weapons capabilities despite very little evidence, fine. But don't say you're on the side and you favor peace in the same breath as you say a war with Iran might be imminent. Let's do a better job here at calling it like it is, people. Not how the mainstream media tells us to.
7 million people are threatened by starvation. Thousands have already died. The famine caused by drought is the worst in living memory, and now the rains have failed again for the third year in succession. The relief organisations are doing all they can, but there just isn't enough food to go around. One of the worst hit areas is in the north of the country, where the problem has been complicated by 2 secessionist wars in Eritrea and Tigray. 40,000 refugees have converged on the town of Coram in the hope of getting some food and medical aid. Our correspondent Michael Burke has been back to Coram after 4 months, and he found the situation far worse.
Dawn, and as the sun breaks through the piercing chill of night on the plain outside Coram, it lights up a biblical famine, now in the 20th century. This place, say workers here, is the closest thing to hell on earth. Thousands of wasted people are coming here for help. Many find only death. They flood in every day from villages hundreds of miles away, dulled by hunger, driven beyond the point of desperation. 15,000 children here now, suffering, confused, lost. Death is all around. A child or an adult dies every 20 minutes. Coram, an insignificant town, has become a place of grief. The relief agencies do what they can. Save the Children Fund are caring for more than 7,000 babies. Every day they weigh them on a sling, then compare their weight with their height. By this rule of thumb, 1 in 3 is severely malnourished, starved to the point of death. This morning another 114 babies have arrived. The choice of who can be helped and who can't among the constant stream of newcomers is heartbreaking. There's not enough food for half these people. Rumours of a shipment can set off panic. As on most days, the rumours were false. For many here, there would be no food again today. 2 months ago, there were 10,000 people here. Now the latest harvest has failed, there are 40,000. There's nothing like enough food in the country, not enough transport to move it if there was. These people have waited all morning. They want food, they're getting clothes. Those naked and most needy are marked by a pen stroke on their foreheads before the distribution begins. An armed guard sits on the small bundles of cast-off clothing sent from countries in Europe. A few jackets, trousers and sweaters, once worn in the wealthy West, now handed out to starving people who have to live in the open through nights when the temperature drops to little over freezing point. Today, only a tiny amount of grain is being given out to those who have brought in firewood. People scrabble in the dirt as they go for each individual grain of wheat. For some, it may be the only food they've had for a fortnight or more. The Ethiopian government tries to persuade these people to go home, but that would make death certain. Better to camp here. Some of the very worst are packed into big sheds. 7,000 now, most apparently dying of malnutrition, pneumonia, and the diseases that prey on the starving. This 3-year-old girl was beyond any help, unable to take food, attached to a drip, but too late. The drip was taken away. Only minutes later, while we were filming, she died. Her mother had lost all her 4 children and her husband. The situation is out of control. Whole groups are being ignored. These people have been without food for a month. A government truck arrived to pick up those most desperately ill and take them to the sheds that are already overcrowded. It was a quick and random affair. They took a handful, but hundreds here needed the food and shelter the sheds provide. Those left behind seemed at least as bad as those that were taken, clustering around us in a hopeless appeal for help.
If nothing happens, I don't know what we are doing then. If there is no food, the medical treatment is a nonsense. Giving drugs to the people, giving injection, giving tablets, if they don't have food, it's quite not ridiculous because we are here.
How do you feel about the attitude of the rest of the world to this country?
I am not a politician. I don't care at all about what's going on. Just I am a witness of Quran. And I know that if nothing is done, there will be thousands, 100,000 of people who will die. Already we have thousands here. Only Quran. And Quran is nothing in Wollo. And Wollo is not the only place in Ethiopia.
Those who die in the night are brought at dawn to be laid out on the edge of the plain. Dozens of them, men, women and children, under blankets or bound in sackcloth for burial in the local custom. For 2 hours the bodies kept coming from out of the encampment. This mother and the baby she bore 2 months ago, wrapped together in death. As body after body was brought down, the grief became almost tangible. By Quorum standards, it wasn't a bad night, 37 dead. Tomorrow there would be more. The day after, more still. Once the bureaucracy of death is over, the bodies are picked up to be carried back to the villages they left in hope such a little time ago. A tragedy bigger than anybody seems to realize, getting worse every day.